Good morning. Welcome to In an Instant Pot. Hope everybody is well. This morning we're going to be making a pasta sauce using lots of tomatoes, tin tomatoes, because it makes it a lot faster. And tin tomatoes are usually about 3 cans for £1, so it's very cheap. So today, as I said, we're going to be making a very simple pasta sauce. It's very tasty. If you like garlic, if you like tomatoes, if you like basil, we've got a few other herbs. We've got a bit of salt. We've got some thyme, some parsley, bit of regular Italian seasoning. And of course, we're going to be using the Instant Pot as we like using that. And that's what the channel's all about. So, yeah. So the recipe today is very simple. Today we've got 5 400-gram cans of chopped tomatoes. We've got a couple of onions I'm going to chop up soon. I'm going to chop those into dice. We've got a bit of olive oil to fry the onions off with. As I said, I use lazy garlic because I'm lazy, but I just find it a lot easier to use than trying to chop the garlic and things. It's just very easy. We've got some salt. We've got about a teaspoon of coconut sugar, but you can use ordinary sugar if you want to. It's just to add a little bit of sweetness against the tomatoes, which can sometimes be a bit bitter. I'm using some fresh basil. For those who watched my stream last week on the sausage soup, we'll do a similar idea that we did with the spinach. For those who didn't watch, you'll have to carry on and wait and see. We've got a few herbs, as I said. We've got a bit of tomato puree, and we've got about 500 mils of just a chicken stock, which I've made with a couple of chicken stock cubes. So let's crack on then. The first thing we need to do is we've got onions. Very simple with the onions. All we're going to do is going to chop top and tail them because I just find it easier to peel it. So make sure your onions are firm when you get them. But if they're not firm, then they don't cook very well. They go all sloppy and slimy, which you don't want. So we're just going to peel. I'm going to peel the onions as you do. There now. And peel away, peel away, peel away. Peel away, peel away, peel away. For those who have seen my other videos, you'll know that I do get very sensitive to onions. I do tend to cry a bit. So rather than chopping them totally myself, I've got this gadget here, which basically you put some onion on there and you just chop it straight through. So for me, I'm going to literally quarter the onion, as you can see. Get my little gadget. Let's move my knife out of the way so it doesn't fall. Get my little gadget on there, and you just go, and it'll go clunk. In theory, there you go, big clunk, and it's all gone through. It's all nicely diced. There you go. Done it again. Very easy. It's very good with a really fresh, good onion, as I said, because it's such a nightmare when you get old onions. They get a bit tough, which isn't the best thing. And then we just put a bit more on there. And as you can see, we've now got nicely diced onions. Now, it depends how oniony you want to go. I used a fairly large onion there, so I don't think I want to do any more onion. I think I was going to use 2, but I don't think I need it. So that's it. Very, very simple. As I said, all my food in here is going to be simple to do uh, because I want it to be fast and easy with no hassle. So come and join me at the cooking pot and we'll see what we're doing next. So those who have an instant pot, you need to set the saute button for about 15 minutes on high and let that warm up. So that's going to now warm up. Once that's warmed up, then we can actually add the onion. But we'll add a little bit of olive oil. So I've just got a little bit of basic olive oil. You don't need to have extra virgin because the extra virgin might actually burn because it's got a lot higher smoking point. Sorry, lower smoking point is the exact opposite. But if you don't want to use olive oil, you can use butter if you want it to be that little bit richer. But I thought today, no, I'll use the bit of Napolina Italiano olive oil, because, hey, we're doing an Italian-inspired dish. So, what else going to do? Ah, yes, as I said in the chat earlier, for those who were in early, why am I doing this pasta sauce? Well, the truth is, I want a pasta dish. So tomorrow, we're going to use this pasta sauce in a instant pot lasagna-ish dish. It's not going to be a true lasagna with all the layers, but it's going to be using different sauces. It's going to have a white sauce. It's going to have obviously this marinara, pasta-y, garlicky goodness. And I'm going to be using this pasta here. We're going to be using, I don't know if you can see that, but little pasta wheels. Ruate. So that's what we're going to be using tomorrow. I've never used ruote, but I just think with the little wagon wheels, I think it looks quite nice. And as the sauce isn't going to be too thick, it should work very nicely with the pot. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So that's going to be using the sauce. We're going to be using, I've got a load of minced beef. That's in the fridge at the moment, ready for tomorrow. And I might actually do a little bit of cooking tomorrow. Well, at least mixing anyway. But you'll have to watch tomorrow again, live at 10ish. Hopefully with less camera issues. But knowing the stream, that's probably not true. So, but yeah. So, don't know if you heard that, but that's the Instant Pot is now warmed up. It's just beeped at me to tell me. So let's go over to the pot and see what we're doing. So, as I said, we're going to just put a little bit of, using some of the olive oil, just a glug, like that. That's all it needs. And that'll start warming through. I'm going to be using a wooden spoon because it just works out a lot faster. You can either use a wooden spoon like that, or if you've got one with a little flat bottom, that helps it scrape a bit off the bottom more. But at the moment, I'm going to use my trusty normal wooden spoon. It's a pretty long-handled one, but I like using it. So you can actually feel the warmth from the pot. It's really, really hot. So that will start bubbling in, well, it's starting to bubble now. If you can see that around the actual around here, around the spoon. You can see it starting to bubble. You can hear it. So what we're going to use, well, we need to make the onions more cooked. So the onions we chopped earlier, we're going to put in the pot. Listen to that nice sizzling noise. Sizzling onions. Onions are sizzling. Yeah, Liz, the pasta wheels are new to me as well. I just like the idea of them. They look quite an interesting shape. And I just, rather than using the fusilli or just basic spaghetti or penne, the tubes and the spirals, I just thought they'd be a nice change. So if you watch tomorrow at 10 o'clock, then you'll see actually that they will hopefully cook through nicely. He hopes. So here, all we're going to do is cook these onions, and, for a few minutes, just soften them up, let them get a bit more translucent, maybe a little bit golden brown. That means I've got all the taste in there then. Then we get the add in a bit more spices and, well, herbs, shall I say. And then that should be a nice base to start the sauce. And the thing with the Instant Pot, you need to keep on stirring because the pot gets so hot in saute mode, they do tend to stick. So you do need to make sure you are constantly stirring. I mean, it'll be okay because once we add the broth, then that'll deglaze the pan. Now, if you want to use, instead of the broth, or even half and half, if you want to add a bit of wine to make it even richer, there you can see the onions are now slightly starting to soften. Just leave them for a minute, and that should hopefully get them going. So yeah, so once these onions are done, what we're going to do, we're going to add in some garlic. Now then, I'm going to add in 5 teaspoons of minced garlic, which is a lot of garlic, but effectively it's nearly a bulb of garlic. So anybody who likes garlic, then feel free to add more. And if you don't like as much garlic, then add a bit less. But I like about 5-6 teaspoons of this lazy garlic, and it's going to be good. This is going to make about 2 litres of pasta sauce. So it's not going to be just a little bit. It's going to be quite thinned out, so weakened. Let's go back to the cook. Oh, you can see there now, but actually it's starting to stick a bit now. Starting to go a bit brown. So now is the time to add our garlic. As I said, we're going to use 5 or so teaspoons. So you need to add that quickly. You don't want that to burn. And then we're just going to add some stock. So that's about 500 millilitres of stock. And there you go. Now we've got a nice base there. Smells nice and garlicky. So what we're going to do next, we're going to add in half of the tomatoes. So I'm going to do 3 cans. Now, some people like getting expensive cans of tomatoes. For me, most of them are the same. You know, these ones are 3 for £1 in most places. As I said, you know, I like them. I like getting the chopped variants for this. These ones don't have any herbs in either, so I like that because I want to actually flavour it the way I want. So that's why I get them without herbs. And you notice a lot of the expensive ones come with herbs, and you know they claim to have this and that in. Well, it might do, but I want to do it myself. So next, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of just salt. Stir that in. And then I'm going to do, I've got some Italian seasoning here. And this Italian one's got a bit of rosemary, basil, oregano, thyme, black pepper, garlic, more garlic, and a little bit of salt. But what we're going to do, we're going to add about a teaspoon or so of that. Just to make it a nice, there we go. Add to that, we're going to do the same, about half a teaspoon of just thyme. We're going to add in a little bit of parsley, about another half a teaspoon again. And then, once again, we're going to give that a nice big stir. Now, some people say that I'm a really good at stirring. I don't know what they mean by that, but I'm hoping they mean I'm very good at stirring a pot, which, yeah, I am. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the coconut sugar. Now, those who haven't had coconut sugar, it's a bit like brown sugar, but it's a slightly healthier variant. It's better for your health. It's not quite as bad for diabetics and the like. But if you want to use just some normal granulated sugar, you can. It's just to take the little bit of the bite, the edge away from the tomato tanginess. So, what do we need to do next? Well, next, we're going to add the other 2 tins of tomatoes. And once again, give everything a really good stir. So as I said, I've used 5 tins of tomatoes. And I've used about 500 mils of just a general stock. So there's about 2.5 litres in here. But because we're going to put it under pressure, when we start cooking it, there's a lot of steam that will get released at the end. So I'm reckoning we might lose maybe 200, 300 mils of this, just purely through steam. So this should thicken up a bit, and it'll be ready to go. But what we're going to do, we have got one more major ingredient to do. Now then, let's come back over here. That's over here. So I have got here a load. There we go. Yeah, we've got some fresh basil. Smells delicious. But what you want to do, because you just want to release the oils, you don't want to crush it, you don't want to rip it, because we're going to actually make this as a slight lid. So I'm not going to cut it, I'm not going to chop it. All I'm going to do is give it the clap. And that's it. And all that's going to do now is going to release the oils from the actual basil, and it'll really incorporate into the dish in a really delicious way. Here we go. So all we're going to do is going to put them on the top, just like that. Just a bit of making like a lid with the basil. Think we might need a little bit more. Well, that's fine. We want more. That's not an issue. Back to the chopping board and clap, clap. That's it. As I said, we're just going to start building a lid on top. So put that there, and that there. And you can see that the actual pot is starting to boil. But we're not going to stir in the basil. We're going to leave that to help it steam. So now all we need to do is put the lid on. Cancel the saute mode. Make sure the actual pot, let's have a look at this again. The vent is set to sealed. And on your Instant Pot, you go to pressure cook. And you want to set it for 11 minutes on high and press start. Yeah, the actual pot now is going to get nice and pressurized. It'll take a few minutes to do that. It'll cook for 11 minutes. And after 11 minutes, it's going to actually stop cooking. But it's going to go on to what they call a slow pressure release at that point. Now you can leave it for an hour and it'll just release all the pressure naturally, which is okay in some dishes. But in this case, we want to release it as a fast release. So we will do what we call a quick release method, which is a switch on the back of the Instant Pot. And with that, it'll release all the steam in 3 to 5 minutes. So we'll get back to that when it's actually finished cooking. So you can see, even behind me here, that the steam is really high pressure. Now, if you try to open the lid, and if you actually did open the lid, you'd probably break the pan. But the other thing is, if you'd let it go, if you did open it, you'd burn yourself. For the sake of a couple of minutes of letting the steam go, what will happen is the pin that I showed you earlier, the silver pin, will drop. And when that drops, what will happen is all the pressure is released and the pot will beep to say go. So then we can open it up and then you can see what happens. Now you'll notice I've got my under my cooker hood purely because there's so much steam. I want all the steam going out. But it's still coming into the room and the aroma is absolutely heavenly. Absolutely. You can smell the tomato. You can smell the basil and the herbs you put through it. Really, really tasty. I'm really looking forward to this. So What we're going to do next is I'm just going to get a bowl ready while we're waiting for the steam to release. So as you can see, the steam is slowing down. So when the steam's gone, the pin will drop and we can go. I'll go back to the cook can. There we go. The pin has dropped. So now we can go back to the cook can. So this pin's dropped. It's now got a very, very small amount of steam. But now what we're going to do is open the lid. And out comes a lot more steam. So you can see that the basil has stayed on the top, but it's still there. So what we're going to do now, we've got one more job to do. And this time we're going to add in, as I said, a good half a tube of tomato puree. Now the tomato puree, as I said, is just a concentrate. So what happens is when they process this tomato puree, they really, really thicken it. And it's absolutely just pure, 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 pure tomato heaven. So all we need to do now we can stir it. Puree will actually thicken it somewhat, but you can't just really eat tomato puree. It needs to cook through. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually give it a good stir. And you can see it's actually getting quite thick. Not quite spoon coating. And this is what I was saying to one of the viewers earlier, Liz. If you're going to use this type of sauce for a bolognese type of thing, I would definitely omit one of the tins of tomato, maybe even half of the stock, and that'll help. Yeah, I'll still use the same amount of tomato puree, but it will thicken up. But if you want a thicker sauce, you can always add in things like, I don't know, mushrooms or other things that will actually help take on some of that sauce. But in this case, we've added in the half a tube of tomato puree. So I'm going to leave it standing. For those on the Instant Pot, just leave it on keep warm setting for a while. You know, and that'll just keep it going. So you can see there, it's still steaming away. The basil's gone through. You can see all the herbs. You can see lots and lots of minced garlic, which is what I wanted because I want this to be a garlic sauce. You know. And then what we're going to do, we're going to decant this pot into the glass dish I've got here, which I'll get on camera in a minute. And we will just leave it in that Pyrex dish to chill. I better taste it first, I suppose, make sure it's okay. But it will change flavours overnight. We'll leave it to chill in the bowl, and once it's cold enough, I'll put it into the fridge overnight and get it out early morning tomorrow, and we'll use it in tomorrow's stream. So I'll put that there. So you can see that I'm going to be putting it into this bowl. So first of all, let's have a taste. Just make sure what the seasonings are like and make sure it's good. It might need a little bit more salt or sugar or that. It's really tangy, really tomatoey. And you know what? Tastes pretty darn good. Mmm. Get rid of that old tomato, that old spoon. So, for those on the Instant Pot, if you're using it, you can press cancel now because we're going to take this out of the actual Instant Pot. And you can't. Into the bowl. Oh, too much for that bowl. Luckily, I've got bowl number 2. So that's all that's left. Seeing as the tomato sauce splattered absolutely everywhere, clean workbench is absolutely key to keeping a clean food. You know, there we go. So that today is our pasta sauce. Now then, I hope it's been simple enough for you all. I hope you've enjoyed this stream. You can see that I've got 2 bowls of pasta sauce out of it, you know, which is good. I'm going to probably use the big bowl of it tomorrow, but the other one I can put in a kilner jar, and that'll keep for a few days in the fridge. But if you want to put it in a plastic tub, you can always freeze it. There's nothing in here that you won't be able to freeze. And it'll freeze for, I think it'll freeze for a good month, if not 6 weeks. It's all fresh stuff. So there's nothing that can't be frozen. So I would definitely recommend that. Obviously, if you've got a smaller pot, then you can actually make a lesser quantity, but I always think you might as well make it all at the same time, then it's ready. You don't have to make it twice. So, again, more speed. Just get yourself a big freezer. One of these American-style freezers might be really useful. You know, some of them are, you know, huge, and a walk-in freezer, if you've got one of those, even better. But let's be realistic. Most households have just got a normal freezer. So if you get a little plastic pot that, you know, that's safe to be used, BPA free, get one of those. Let it make sure it's cold before you put it in the freezer, and then you can freeze it. Then just take it out the night before you're going to use it, and you've got a sauce ready to go. And you've made it. It's not come out of a jar. Anyway, thank you everybody who's been watching and anybody who'll watch in the future. If you've got any comments, please leave them you know, on the wherever you can find me. This video will be uploaded to YouTube in the next few days or so. What else I'm going to do this week? I'm going to do a new blog Wednesday or Thursday. That'll go up on my website, www.inaninstant-pot.com. Come and join me in my Facebook group, In an iPot. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and they're all in an iPot, because in an Instant Pot was too long apparently to use as my username. So in an iPot, as is this Twitch stream. Please come back tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and we'll be using this pasta sauce to make a lasagna-ish dish. Until then, enjoy the chicks!